Hello, dear friends. To talk about evil is not to attract it, but to warn of danger in order to avoid it. Opinion piece. The value of privacy. Chinese social credit. A totalitarian system. It is done through the smartphone. Sales of dumb phones on the rise. To avoid privacy tracking. Exodus from city to countryside on the rise. Russian troops begin to withdraw from Ukraine. Kremlin rolls out use of nuclear weapons in the war. Putin gives Friday as deadline to get rid of the dollar. Let's start. The sacred right to privacy and intimacy of humankind is threatened by the development of the information society and the expansion of information technology and telecommunications. Privacy is the area of private life that one has the right to protect from any intrusion. It is defined as the realm of an individual's personal life, which takes place in a reserved space, the main purpose of which is to keep confidential. Article 12 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly, states that the right to privacy is a humankind right, in quotes. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family home, or correspondence, nor to attacks upon his honor and reputation. Everyone has the right to the protection of the law against such interference or attacks. Close quotes. Privacy is defined as the intimate and reserved spiritual zone of a person or a group, especially a family. Privacy is somewhat more nuclear and is more strongly protected. Companies and legal entities have a right to privacy, but not to intimacy. There is a graduation in the protection of both, according to the theory of the cone of secrets. Among the various types of secrets, privacy and intimacy are the most deserving of protection. The concept of mass surveillance applies to the entire network of surveillance exercised over a large part of the population. Surveillance can be carried out by states, private companies, or non-governmental organizations, although the main perpetrator is usually the state. Companies sometimes carry out surveillance on behalf of the state, although they may also do so on their own initiative. Depending on each nation's laws and judicial systems, the legality and scope of mass surveillance varies. China. The Chinese government measures citizen behavior to decide what services they are entitled to. For example, people who search the internet on questionable topics will be black flagged. The problem now is that the horrors of the Chinese social credit system are on their way to the West if we don't stop them. Human rights in the People's Republic of China are a bone of contention between the Chinese government and other countries and in NGOs. Organizations such as the US State Department, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch have accused the Chinese government of restricting its citizens' freedoms of speech, movement, and religion. The Chinese social credit system is a national credit rating and blacklisting system developed by the government of the People's Republic of China. The program began regional trials in 2009, before launching a national pilot with 8 credit rating companies in 2014. Since 2016, the system is intended to standardize the credit rating function and perform financial and social assessment for enterprises and government institutions, individuals and non-governmental organizations operating in the country. The mechanism seeks to measure the social behavior and reliability of individuals and companies, and from this to distribute benefits and punishments in access to services. Thus, for example, a person with a bad score could have difficulties in obtaining a plane ticket, while a person with a good score could find it easier to obtain a medical appointment. Critics of the system claim that it transgresses the rule of law and violates the legal rights of residents and organizations, especially the right to reputation, the right to privacy and personal dignity, and that the system is a tool for government surveillance and suppression of Chinese government dissent. Censorship. Censorship in the People's Republic of China is enforced and mandated by the CCP. The government censors content primarily for political reasons, but also to maintain its control over the population. The Chinese government maintains censorship over all media capable of reaching a wide audience. This includes television, print media, radio, film, theater, text messaging, instant messaging, video games, literature, and the internet. Chinese officials have access to uncensored information through a system of internal documents. Reporters Without Borders classifies the situation of the Chinese press as very serious, in quotes, the West rating of its 5-point scale. Other views suggest that Chinese companies such as Baidu, Tencent, and Alibaba, some of the world's largest internet companies, have benefited from the way China blocked international rivals from the domestic market. Freedom News. First, dumb phones on the rise. At a time when various intelligence agencies in the developed world are filling petabytes of hard drive space with domestic phone records and tracking their own citizens, some have had enough and are throwing their smartphones in the trash and replacing them with dumb phones or shoe phones like those in GetSmart. Second, the exodus from cities is gaining speed, according to John Miltimore. Larger metropolitan areas experienced massive declines in population. The Times notes that many people living in California were looking for job opportunities and affordable housing, citing skyrocketing housing costs. Other pieces point out that the hard closures drove many young people out of the city. And then there is the rise of remote work, which has allowed many workers to leave metropolitan areas without losing their jobs. According to Ernst Wolf, the Western world is being pushed into tyranny. In quotes, we are certainly facing turbulent and dangerous times, but we have a historic trump card in our hands. It consists in the fact that the other side does not act according to the rules of reason, but fights for reasons of greed and power, and can therefore do nothing but get into ever greater difficulties. We must use exactly that weakness and always keep in mind that the other side likes more money, more property, and moreover to have all the weapons in the world available. But their power is not based on their money, not on their possessions or their weapons, but is based on only one factor, and that is the ignorance of the majority of the people. That is, that the majority do not understand the evil game this minority is placing with them. Well, close quotes. Rumors of wars. First, Russia will drastically reduce its military activity in the Kiev area after progress in the peace negotiations. Second, Russian troops begin withdrawing from Ukraine as peace talks made solid progress. Third, Ukraine gives up trying to regain Crimea and Donbass militarily. Fourth, special forces capture those involved in the torture of prisoners. Fifth, the Kremlin rules out the use of nuclear weapons in the war. Sixth, Russia blames the US for cyber attacks. Moscow repels hundreds of thousands of cyber attacks every day, says Foreign Ministry. Russia. First, Russia's gas supplies to Europe at risk as ruble deadline approaches. Second, European Commission refuses to pay for Russian gas supplies in rubles. Third, Russia is not going to send free gas to Western Europe. Fourth, the Kremlin says all options as to how gas payments in rubles will be resolved on Thursday, March 31st. Fifth, Putin gives Friday as deadline for getting rid of the dollar. Sixth, Russia will stop shipping natural gas to countries that refuse to settle payments in rubles. 7. Moscow will not participate in charity work if Europe refuses to pay in Russian currency. 8. Russia intensifies economic retaliation with offer to buy back Eurobonds in rubles. 9. Putin declares the end of Western currencies and says the world is moving toward real reserves, including land, food and gold. President Putin predicts the world will move away from the Western financial system, which seized his country's monetary assets as part of its sanctions. 10. Putin sets deadline for the fall of the dollar. Starting this Friday, Russia will only accept rubles, gold or bitcoins as payment for energy exports to friendly countries. No dollars or euros will be accepted. Putin demands rubles, gold or bitcoin, and that means that the Russian ruble is now backed by commodity exports, making it a currency backed by something real. In other words, you can trade those rubles for natural gas or oil. 11. The IMF has no problem with Moscow and doesn't plan to expel Russia from the monetary fund. Europe. First, the European Union has its gas deposits filled to 26% of capacity at the end of winter. Second, the European Union threatens to block Russian oil supplies to Serbia. Third, Europe is not in a position to go far on anti-Russian sanctions, as it is 40% dependent on gas shipments from Russia to run its own economy. 1/3 of oil imports and over 40% of coal imports come from Moscow. 4. Dozens of Russian diplomats expelled. Belgium, Ireland, the Czech Republic and the Netherlands join forces to expel more than 40 Russian diplomats accused of espionage. 5. Germany criminalizes the Syria symbol used by Russian supporters. 6. Turkish refusal to sanction Russia highlights NATO's internal fractures. England. UK detains Russian-owned superyacht at London's Canary Wharf. Second, British blackout. Power outage shuts down London. Up to 38,000 customers affected as cuts wipe out traffic lights, internet and electricity in 37 zip codes and fire closes tunnel causing rush hour chaos. The outage caused chaos as internet lights went out. People working from home were helpless as they could not log on to their computers. Authorities said it was caused by a fault in a subway high voltage cable. Economy. First, Wall Street gains on signs of progress in Russian-Ukraine talks. Second, oil falls $2 on positive signs of peace talks. Third, gas prices and inflation send the masses into silver and gold, but the World Gold Council wants to track all gold. 4. Iraqi Kurdistan willing to partially compensate for the lack of oil in the European Union. 5. India intends to increase the import of Russian coal. 6. Chinese companies seek to profit from Russia's western exodus. 7. China issues US a containment warning. 8. Elites are exploiting the Ukraine conflict to lower living standards. 9. Sanctions could lead to a global energy crisis. 10. Sanctions are an ineffective and impractical tool, as they always have unintended consequences that negatively impact the countries that impose them, writes investor and Planet Ponzi author Michel Feinstein. Increasing light. First, solar storm. Strong G3 class geomagnetic storm is possible during the early hours of March 31st, when a cannibalistic coronal mass ejection is expected to hit the Earth's magnetic field. Second, on Monday, March 28, an M4 solar flare exploded from our Sun along with a coronal mass ejection. Because it takes approximately 3 days for cosmic energy to reach our planet, it is estimated that the full impact of this event will not reach Earth until today, Wednesday, March 30. Third, Anthropic paradox. We live in a world plagued by paradoxes and contradictions. So is our own thinking and our daily actions. The term anthropic paradox provides conceptual support for the analysis of this diversity of events in environments where contradictions and uncertainties abound. 4. Humankind is moved by a diversity of problems and challenges in societies immersed in the search of their identity, together with 40 years of nightmare for democracies. With citizenships abstracted in the focus of the self as the central object of identified construction, with its correlates individualism, unbridled consumerism, the exacerbated cult of leisure, and the value of money as the ideal of human beings, and with thoughts and actions still predominantly androcentric. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.